everybody. Welcome back to the Talk Less, Listen More podcast. I'm your host, Jermaine Moore. Today we have a very special guest. We have a good friend, Eli. Eli, can you introduce yourself?
What up, y'all? My name is Elijah. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, but I actually know Jermaine from college. And yeah, man, I'm actually out of college right now. I'm just working, taking things day by day. And I just came to stop by and say what's up to my fan. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So him being from Detroit, Michigan, you can probably guess the fact that he is a Michigan fan, Wolverines. And that's what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to talk about college football every week, just try to go in-depth analysis about different teams, the state of college football, rankings, playoffs, Heisman, just all the things that consist of college football in this very here podcast. So this is the very first episode of the Talk Less, Listen More Sports Edition. And we're just going to open it up with just a few questions. So, Eli, what do you think of the current rankings of college football?
Right now, I feel like it's straight. I feel like it's okay. I feel like for once, and I don't actually be like too like it's hard to explain, but I actually don't really I don't like following like the rankings and everything, honestly, because like sometimes I feel like it's a little messed up, and sometimes I feel like everything is like a little one-sided. But for once, actually this year, I feel like it's actually okay. I feel like I would switch some teams around, but I feel like it's actually okay. I ain't trying to be too biased to say, oh, I'll put Michigan at one, but I mean, if they had two, that's cool. I mean, at least we in the top three and everything. But for once, I actually feel like it's pretty cool. Like, it's straight. I feel like it's about right on pretty much most of the teams. I'll say at least about like the top 5 teams I feel like are correct.
That's a very interesting take on that. Me personally, I feel like there are a lot of times where they do mess up the rankings, and I guess I can hint what you're saying is, sometimes you look at the rankings, you're like, why is this team ahead of this team? Why is this team not, so I see what you're saying, but I do honestly feel like this year they are putting a lot more emphasis and going into more depth about, the teams, where to rank them, who they've played, who they've beaten. But my only problem with the rankings that I would say is right now they still have Georgia sitting at number 1 based off of what they did the past 2 years. So obviously we know that Georgia is the 2-time reigning champion. But if you look at them this season, they are not the same team that played in 2 national championships 2 years ago. And my whole thing is they're basing the fact off, they're number 1 because of what they did last year. They're number 1 for what they did 2 years ago. And this is a whole new season. History, it matters in a sense, but at the same time it doesn't, because if a team is playing better than the previous champion, obviously they need to be above them, because this is not the same team. This is not the exact same players, the exact same schedule. All that really goes into it. So that's my only really problem with the current rankings in the state right now, is that Georgia is still number 1 when they haven't been the best team in the nation so far this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think they are the best team in the nation. As of right now, I don't think they are. But, yeah, I do see what you're saying with, with what they did a few years ago, and, how they just still giving them the number 1 after, 2 years of them just dominating college football. But, yeah, I agree with you on that. It is a little weird how they just keep putting them above everybody. It's some teams that's, in the top 10. It's 5-1.
Yeah.
And it's 4-0 teams are above them. It don't make sense for real. I ain't gonna lie. But I guess it's because they been playing more ranked opponents or something. I'm not really too sure, but I do feel like most of these teams that are 4-0 should be way below. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I got you. But speaking of college football, what do you feel about the current state of college football? So we got the new NIL that's been around for a few years now, but more importantly, there've been talks about realignment. Texas, Oklahoma has joined the SEC. You got all these Pac-12 teams join the Big Ten, the Big 12. Really, just the Pac-12 just disappearing right in front of our eyes. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I feel like the Pac-12, I feel like it's been a minute, or I feel like it's been long overdue for that whole, conference to just shut down. Honestly, I feel like most of the Pac-12 teams, I feel like they might call me crazy for saying this. I feel like they kind of neck and neck with SEC. Kind of. Now, I ain't going to say fully, but I feel like they kind of up there with SEC. So I feel like it's about time for them to, start something new or open up a new conference or, just get rid of the Pac-12. Honestly, I don't really see the Big 12. Ain't the Big 12 still a thing?
Yeah, the Big 12. That's where you got I almost said Iowa. That's where Texas and Oklahoma are coming from. That's where you got the Baylors, the Texas Techs, the
SMU. Yeah, they should have been got rid of that. If I'm being honest, honestly, me, because I just don't. I really just don't see anybody just getting in the way of the dominance of the SEC and the Big Ten and stuff. I just don't see anybody topping that or getting in the way of the dominance that they already have with all the teams and the numbers that they put up streaming wise and just the fans and everything that they got going on. I just don't see no other conference getting in the way of that.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
My whole thing with the realignment is, for obvious reasons, geographically, none of it makes sense. The current state of college football, where you have the ACC, that's all Atlantic Coast teams. The Big Ten is all the up north teams. The Big 12 is all the country teams in the middle east, middle west of the United States. SEC, obviously the southeastern teams, and then the Pac-12 is the Pacific Coast teams. Obviously, put in a USC versus a Michigan State, imagine being that player. You 1 week you have to imagine being a Michigan player, correct? So 1 week you have to go play Michigan State. It's freezing cold. And then the next week you got to go to Los Angeles to play UCLA. The traveling, the cost, it doesn't make any sense. It never made sense to me. And then the second part of that is, I don't understand why the Pac-12 specifically. Me being a Pac-12 fan, this might sound a little biased, but this is just me speaking from just college football knowledge in general. I don't understand why the Pac-12 is getting disbanded when they've, like you said, they've been up there on par with the SECs and the Big Tens. In all honesty, the ACC and the Big 12 are the worst two Power 5 conferences. You never really have that many people, and it's all based on who's made the college football playoff. The thing with the Pac-12 is there have been 6 or 7 teams that could have made the college football playoff, but the Pac-12 is basically, I call it the cannibalism conference. They beat themselves up. They beat each other up because they don't want anyone else out of the Pac-12 to go to the college football playoff. And with the SEC, you got teams that are beating other SEC teams, and you got Big Ten teams that are beating other Big Ten teams. But with the Pac-12, you always have that team that's just always there, right, creeping in, right? You always got them ranked at 5. Late in the season, they're ranked their record is 11-1. Then next thing you know, they lose to another Pac-12 team who they never should have lost to, and then just like that, they fall bloop right down the rankings. So it's just forgot about. And I think that's just really unfair, because if that's the case, that means that's the strongest conference. That makes the most sense to me. That means that all the teams in that conference are gunning for a spot for the college football playoff. And even if they aren't gunning for a spot, they still don't care about what this team has done. They're going to go and try to beat them because they don't want another team to represent them more than they should represent them themselves. So that's my whole take on realignment and just the Pac-12 just being completely obliterated to begin with. Yeah, man. It sucks being a Pac-12 fan that I have to watch my team play Ohio State, the Penn State, all that stuff. Because in all honesty, last year, in my opinion, the Big Ten was the best conference in all of college football. This year, it's the Pac-12 because there are so many teams ranked. They're doing so many great things. The SEC is kind of a bit of a downfall. We still kind of play that whole SEC is the best conference thing because of the champions. But if you look at overall versus, so for example, the SEC is very top heavy. You got the Georgias, the Bamas, the LSU's, and then what? You know what I'm saying? Like the Pac-12, they got 7-6 teams that are ranked every week. The Big Ten, just about the same.
Yeah.
But it's all based upon history, you know? It's all based on, okay, the SEC has been dominant for the past 10, 15 years, so obviously let's, rank these guys higher because the ACC is tougher. And to be honest, it is, but that's, you know what I'm saying, how fair is that really?
Yeah, honestly, I hate how they do the rankings, honestly. And I meant to ask you too, like, I think Washington and Oregon play like this weekend,
Next
and
weekend.
like they 7-8. Like,
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if Oregon beats Washington, like how you think the rankings gonna work? Like, how you think they gonna move them, like up or like below the rankings?
So right now, like you said, Washington is currently sitting at 7, Oregon's at 8. If Oregon was to beat them, it really depends because, one, the big factor is it is an away game for Oregon, and it really depends on how well they beat them. So if they beat them off a last second or last anything, it's still going to be beneficial for them because it was on the road. But if they blow them out and dominate them, then I say that Oregon will probably creep in the top 6. I don't feel like they're going to move up a whole bunch just because the current state of the rankings. It also really depends on what Texas and Oklahoma do, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I honestly don't feel like Oregon's going to jump up that much. Like I said, it really all depends on how well they beat them, if they do beat them. But, yeah, that's just my overall thoughts on that.
Sure.
So, let's get into a little bit of a deep dive personal. Who are your fraud teams and who are your for real teams?
I ain't gonna lie. They probably gonna kill me for this, but fraud, my number one fraud team is Alabama. My number one fraud team is Alabama, bro. That's my number one fraud team. I can't lie. And here's why. Y'all ain't got no quarterback. Y'all quarterback room is looking real sus right now. I can't lie. And they not even in the top 10. Alabama ain't even in the top 10 right now, bro. Like, and they've been doing, like, I don't know what it is, but it's like Alabama's just been, like, real out of place. Like, I've been living in Alabama for, like, 8 years, going on 9 now. And it's like, just growing up here, I've just been used to them just dominating. Dominating. And it's like, as I get older and like start like, just watching more football and stuff now, it's just like I just see them like plummeting. Like they just not as good as they used to be. You feel me? Like their defense is like I mean, I'll say they got probably one of the best defenses like in college football, but like it's just not as scary as it used to be, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Alabama is not as scary as they used to be. That's just that. I mean.
Yeah. Anybody else you got for your frauds?
I will say LSU. I would say LSU, but I honestly haven't watched enough games on them. Mm-hmm. But honestly, every time I watch LSU, bruh, it looked like they quarterback getting hit, like he done for the season after a hit, bruh. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, picked up twice this season by a defensive lineman holding him in the air in his arms like he's a child.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on. Like, why he not sliding? Like, do he think like he has a chance to hurdle everybody? Like, I don't know what he thinking. But like, if they keep doing that, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's gonna be they gonna plummet or something because it's just not like, I don't know. That just don't look like a winning format or like a winning, that just don't look like it's gonna work for me like later on in the year. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And my third fraud. Right now, I'm gonna say Colorado. I'm gonna say Colorado, man.
As you should.
I mean, I had high hopes. Honestly, I had high hopes, and so far, like this year, I didn't watch almost all of their games. But you know, I feel like just after knocking off they play USC and Oregon. Just after those two games, I feel like the rest of the season they'll be straight. You know, this is Deion's first year, like as a head coach, like at like a school that's up there now. So like, you know, I'm not expecting him to just go all out and, you know, go win a chip and this, that, and the third. This is something he's building up on, you know, and I like what I've seen so far from them. You know, they O-line is absolutely terrible.
Oh yeah.
I think their left tackle and their right tackle is blind. I don't know what's going on with their I don't know what's going on with their tackles, but you know, we'll just give it to them. Yeah, this year y'all some frauds. We thought y'all was going. You feel me? Like that would just be like a Cinderella perfect. You feel me? That'd be some movie stuff if I'm being honest. But you know, I give it to them. They some frauds this year, but you know, it's gonna be something they'll have to build up upon. You know, with some recruits and transfers, and you know, just next year. You know, but I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them this year, but you know, just maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year. They actually just had a #1 recruit in the nation visit them this past week, so we'll see.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I'm telling you, they start recruiting and stuff. They gonna build something now.
My thing with Colorado is, and they're actually on my fraud list too. My thing with Colorado is it was just really the hype around it. Going into the season, everybody was saying, okay, Colorado is going to do this, that, and the other. Colorado is going to be good. They might win the Pac-12. Like, let's slow our brakes here, okay? This is a whole new team, whole new coaches. Their schedule is really, really tough, as we just saw the past 2 weeks. They really don't have the defense at all. I know they have Shiloh Sanders, who's a good safety cornerback, whatever you want to call him. He's a really good defensive back. But other than that, they really don't have that many people. And like you said, their offensive line is terrible. They have one of the worst rushing attacks in the nation. And if you saw the Oregon game, they exploited that. I think the overall run game for Colorado was less than 100 yards. And I know that was just a blowout game where it was like 42-6. I forgot what the score was. It was just one of those games where, since you can tell by Oregon's game planning, they were not afraid of the run. Every play, almost every single play, there were 6 or 7 Duck players in what's his name? Shedeur Sanders' face. Like they were blitzing him. They did not respect the run. They felt their DBs, the Kyrie Jackson, they felt like they could contain their wide receivers long enough for the defensive line, the linebackers to get in and put Sanders on his butt. Like, let's be honest. They were not afraid of the run. They were not afraid of him scrambling, and they knew that the offensive line, especially the tackles, as you said, were not up to par with the level of competition they should be at. So, like you said, I feel like it was just a lot of expectations heading on to the season that Colorado was actually going to make some noise. Now, I will say that I did only have them winning around 3 to 4 games, but now looking at them, they might actually win 5. Not 5. They might actually make a bowl game, so like 6 or 7. They might actually do some work more than I thought they were going to do. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be really impressive to see what they do in the future. I heard talks that Shedeur doesn't plan on going to the NFL this season. He might go next season, so we'll just have to see where he ends up next year. But they have really good freshmen like Dylan Edwards and like other people like that. So I feel like Colorado is going to be just fine next year. This year,
and I feel like that loss to USC, you know, it wasn't that bad, but you know, like they just didn't lay down like they did the other week against Oregon. I ain't gonna lie, they laid down. They laid down like they. They just let them, like, they just let Oregon have it. I mean, I don't blame them, but it's like, I don't, like, it was hard to watch. I ain't gonna lie. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Me.
So, I'm just gonna run through this very quickly. My frauds for this season, like I said, Colorado. My second fraud might be surprising to some, but I have Georgia. I just don't think. Yeah, I know. I just do not think. Now, I do think their schedule is very biased towards them. Like, they really don't play that much good level of competition. But if you saw how they've played the past 2 weeks, I know they had a few games like this last season, but last season they had a really good defense to rely on. This season they kind of have a few guys who are really, really good in a few areas where you can tell they're freshmen or they're just getting their first few starts. I do believe that Kirby Smart is a great coach, a great defensive mind. He's going to be able to put that team together. But my whole concern with Georgia is they are very young, and how long can Carson Beck and Brock Bowers carry this offense? Because if you look at how they did against Auburn last week, that was really the whole reason that Georgia won. Carson Beck and Brock Bowers decided to wake up in the second half, and they dominated. But the defense, like I said, they're still young in a few areas. It's not as scary as it has been the past 2 years. And defense does win championships, but defense can only be out there for so long before they get hands on hips and gasping for air. So that's why I have Georgia right there right now. Also, they haven't really played anybody yet, and twice this season out of 4 games, they've been in tough matchups where they almost lost. So that's why I kind of have them in the frauds. I feel like they get a really good team on the opposite side of the ball that has a formula and have good players and talent, but more so experience than Georgia. Then I feel like Georgia might be in trouble. So look around the Kentucky games and the maybe Tennessee games, maybe depending.
Whoa, you think they're going to fall to Kentucky?
Kentucky's really good this year. I'm not going to lie to you, man.
Whoa.
Kentucky is really good.
I ain't going to lie. Hey. You might be on to something. I ain't gonna lie. You might be on to something.
So the next team that I have is USC for obvious reasons. They have the best player in the country. They have a really loaded offense, but 40 points to Shedeur Sanders, giving up 280-plus rushing yards to the Colorado Buffaloes, 34-7 after half is... That's kind of concerning for that defense, And all off season, they've been talking about, we got new defensive guys from the transfer portal. We're going to be really good on defense this year. And I don't know, those questions are start to arise yet again. So we'll see really how good they really are when it comes to them playing Oregon and those really high explosive offenses. Speaking of Oregon, I also have them on the fraud list.
No way you got your own team.
I do have my own team on the fraud list, and the only reason that I have them on the fraud list is because I know how Oregon does. They get really, really well. They do really, really good, and then some random week they just decide to lose and just kill all playoff chances. So I'm really just waiting on that at this point. That's the only reason I have them. I'm being completely honest. That's the only reason I have them, because they tend to make me very sad as an Oregon fan. But hopefully this year will be different. Hopefully I'm proved wrong. And lastly, on my fraud list, I have Ohio State. Now, you being a Michigan fan, I'm sure that brings joy to you. But the reason I have Ohio State is because I just don't feel like Ryan Day is in the correct position at Ohio State. Now, I'll elaborate on that. I feel like Ryan Day does not need to be a head coach, but I think he will make a great offensive coordinator. I feel like that the direction that the team is going, he's a great recruiter and he has a great game plan offensively, but I just feel like when it comes to the big games and the big moments, I just feel like he tends to not really show the best of previous Ohio State coaches such as Urban Meyer and other guys. And I know that this past 2 weeks ago they beat Notre Dame, and he was talking about hyping himself up, saying he had a few words for a few guys, and that's cool and all. But I also kind of thought about putting Notre Dame on the fraud list because of that Ohio State loss. I feel like Notre Dame should have really came in and moved their own will and just did whatever they wanted to against Ohio State. But
yeah, didn't they have a play where it was like it wasn't enough players on the field or something?
Yeah, 2 plays in a row they had 10 guys on the field. So
who was coaching, bro?
Yeah, exactly. Marcus Freeman, I don't know, buddy. I think you need to teach your players how to count. But
ain't no way.
But yeah. So those are my frauds. Now we're gonna move on to the for reals. Who are your for real teams?
For real, honestly, for my for real teams, I would say Michigan, but we ain't played nobody. Like we haven't played nobody for real, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like just looking at my schedule right now, I just don't see how we like. I don't know. I don't see how we like dominant for real if we just ain't really played nobody. But
Mm-hmm.
um,
I have Michigan in my for reals.
what was that?
I have Michigan in my for reals.
You got Michigan in your for reals?
I expect Michigan to win the national championship this year, but we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, I feel like they for real, but it's like we just ain't played nobody. Like it's kind of like I'm not. You know, you might hate me for this. It's kind of a bias for real. It's kind of a bias for real. We just haven't played anybody. Like we dominating, but it's like we ain't played nobody for real. Like you know what I'm saying? Like the defense look good, but we just ain't. We just ain't played nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my number one for real. I ain't gonna lie. Now my number two, just based, and I'm saying this based off of their performance last week. Colorado for real, man.
Wow.
I'm just saying, based off of their performance last week, because like I was saying earlier, like against Oregon, they just laid down, bro. Like they just beat the soul out of them. Like they just ain't had no rhythm. They couldn't get no passes off. They couldn't get no plays off or nothing. But how they performed against USC in that loss, and how you was saying it was like 31 something like you said it was like 31-7
Yeah, 34 to 7.
something like that.
No, it was 34. That was the score. If you look at just the second half, USC scored 7 points while Colorado scored 34.
Oh yeah, man. See, like they picking up. They kind of like getting in the groove. I know they ain't get the win, but they putting up way more points than they did the last week. You feel me? So it's like I feel like that's some improvement right there. Because like they ain't just let them break the scoreboard on them. Like they at least tried to put up a fight, and they found out that they got a star receiver in they freshman. So I feel like going forward they'll be pretty straight. I feel like they that deal, honestly.
If you say so, man.
I'm telling you, bro. And I ain't gonna lie. My last for real team, I ain't gonna lie. And this might be a shocker, but Ole Miss is like that, bro.
Honestly, that's not a bad pick. I'm not disappointed in that one.
Did you see that? Did you see that game against LSU,
Yeah,
bro?
I watched it.
You said you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Bruh, that was crazy.
that was a great game. Now the fans, on the other hand, I don't know about throwing stuff on the field, but hey, man, you do what you do.
Yeah, they was kind of wilding for throwing stuff on the field, though. I'm like, dang, come on.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think it's ever that serious.
That call was crazy. You
talking about the touchdown they gave to LSU?
Yes, that was crazy, bro.
That I almost said the game was rigged at that point, man.
Yeah, that was insane. I'm sitting here looking at my TV. I'm like, that is out.
Yeah, I don't know what the rest were thinking, but that was a weird call. That was definitely.
They should have known that was coming, bro. Like, I mean, they should have known they was gonna start throwing stuff on the field, though. Like, that was outrageous. I ain't gonna lie, but man, seeing them come back from that, I ain't gonna lie, that was very impressive, for real.
And for me, like what I like to do sometimes with big games like that, where it's playoff implications involved. What I like to see overall, what I like to do is I like try to predict. Everybody likes try to predict the outcome of the game, and that was the one game that I was like, I don't know who's gonna win this game. That was gonna be the game where it was really gonna be who had the ball last. And that was actually the case. Like, I couldn't make a decision beforehand, and then my whole mantra going into it was whoever has the ball last is going to win the game. And that's what happened. Even the final drive LSU had, they were very close to.
Yeah, they was close.
they were very close to winning that game.
Yeah.
Had it not been for a few flags, and I know there was a flag for holding, I think, that pushed them back on the final play. or delay, I guess, something like that. It was some last second flag right before the final play. But yeah, that was gonna be a close game, and it so happened to be. So
yeah, but I can't lie though. Like just seeing them come back from that and being able to like withstand like all that stuff, like even in like the terrible call by the ref and everything. Like I just really like that from them. You know, like
they overcame adversity.
I mean, they kind of look. I ain't gonna say they look real rowdy or anything. I ain't gonna lie, like that. It kind of would have made me heated if I was a player in that moment. But you know, just seeing them be calm and like get the ball back, and you know, just still fighting and like, forgetting about all the calls and all that and fighting. They just focused on winning. Like I like that from them. I ain't gonna lie, I like that.
To be honest,
I enjoyed that game. I ain't gonna lie. Like I ain't even want to turn on the Alabama.
Mississippi
who
State
was
game.
Playing Mississippi State?
Yeah,
I ain't even want to turn that game on. I was like, hold on, we gotta go back to the Ole Miss.
I honestly thought that this was going to be the year that Ole Miss beats Alabama, because I know in 2014, 2015 they beat them 2 years in a row, and it's kind of been hard ever since. So I really feel like this year it was going to be the rise of Ole Miss, but Alabama had other plans. And speaking of which, I'm going to get into my for real. So like I explained, I have Michigan up there. And I already told you why. Well, I didn't. But I have Michigan up there because I know you said that, you know, you feel like you guys haven't really played anybody. But the way you guys are just dominating every single team and moving your will and pushing your will on every team is not natural. It's not the same as Georgia hasn't really played anybody. I know they played Auburn, but it's not the same with Georgia, how they've just been dominating every single team. The way that Michigan has been dominating every single team, that's not hard to do. No matter how big of a talent gap there is, that's not really hard to do. Well, no, sorry, that's hard to do. That's not something that just comes easy, where every week you just go in, only give up like 7, 10 or less points. Like that's not normal. So that's why I have them as my favorite. The whole thing that Michigan was really missing last year, they had the defense, they had the offensive line, they had the running back. The only thing Michigan was missing last year was the quarterback play. J.J. McCarthy, don't get me wrong, is a very great quarterback, but last year he was not very – you couldn't really rely on him to win you the game. They really relied on their run game in order to win the games, in which it worked. It was very effective. Obviously, they went undefeated and made it to the playoffs before they lost to TCU. But if J.J. McCarthy was able to –
it was kind of hard.
Yeah. So I feel like if Michigan can maintain that run game, but also find a way to have J.J. McCarthy throw for at least 250 yards with 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, they are the best team in the country. And that's why I have them winning the national championship. They're my favorite to win the national championship. It's really all dependent on J.J. McCarthy's play at quarterback. So yeah. They're in my for reals. Washington, it pains me to say it being an Oregon fan, but I have Washington for real. Michael Penix, really good. Who cares? I don't like Washington, but I will give credit where it's due. Penn State, they're on the edge. Actually, I'm not gonna put them right now. They've been really good, but I don't think they're for real because they got to play Michigan on November 11th, and that's going to be at Penn State. So we'll see. That's a whiteout game. That's going to be a really great game.
That's going to be a foul.
Yeah.
Can't lie.
Obviously.
Going to a bar.
Yeah. Obviously, I have
after
Texas.
My birthday.
Yeah. That's going to be a really great game. It's probably going to be college game day, but we'll see. That's really when college football gets really good, when the weather gets cold.
Man, what?
Yeah. That November football is the best football.
I'm telling you, I'm all in the bars, man. I can't lie.
Obviously, I have Texas for what they did against Alabama.
And Texas is ruthless, bro.
Yeah,
I
Texas
ain't gonna lie.
really
Quinn
good.
Errors is like that.
Yeah.
He like that, bro. I can't lie.
Speaking of Alabama, I actually have them as a for real. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. This is gonna sound crazy, but my whole thing with Alabama is they have Nick Saban. And typically when Alabama loses, when Alabama loses, America wins. That's kind of the whole thing with that. But the big question really with Alabama is the QB play. Now, here's my take on the whole QB play at Alabama. Going into the season, it was publicized that there was a 3-way race, so there was like really who knows is going to be the starter. It could be Tyler, it could be Jalen. No one really knew who the starter was going to be. Going into the season, that was what we were told a few weeks before, like a week before the first game at Alabama. Jalen Milroe was named the starter. So they played Texas, and Jalen Milroe was a starter, obviously, and people ridiculed him. They criticized him. Jalen Milroe sucks. Put in Tyler, put in all these other guys. And then the very next week, they go to USF, and you see how bad, really, the QB room is. And people were saying that, there's going to be problems for Alabama. They really don't have a QB. That's not the case at all. Now, Jalen Milroe is he's a good athlete. Obviously he can run the ball. He's a great dual threat quarterback, and he can obviously throw deep. Now, my thing with the whole QB room, the QB talks about Alabama is if Jalen Milroe can maintain the level of production he did against the first two teams before. I forgot who they played in week 1. When they played Texas, people were saying that he needs to be benched because he was throwing interceptions. That's what you're going to get when you play good defenses, people. Like, you're not going to have a QB. It's very rare you're going to have a QB in his first season starting just absolutely dominate and throw the ball for 500-plus yards on 70, 60% completion rate, 5 touchdowns. That's going to be very hard, especially against a really, really good defense in Texas. And people are trying to ridicule Alabama for saying they don't have a QB room. Well, the reason that Jalen Milroe was benched against the USF game is because of the fact that there was a QB battle in the offseason. Like, we didn't know Nick Saban didn't know who was going to be the starter. So what he wanted to do was give the other QBs a chance. That's why each of them played a half, to give them a chance against a lesser opponent like USF, who they know they can beat if they, for that game for Alabama, that was just a test game. Let's see how good these QBs really are. We've seen what they can do in the offseason. We've seen what they can do against a scout defense. Let's see what they can do against a team who's really trying to beat them at home on the road. So it was really a test more so for the backup QBs to Jalen, because I think about it like this. Jalen is always going to be the starter. He's always going to be the starter no matter what, unless he gets hurt, obviously. Now, if he gets hurt, then we can start talking about the QB room in Alabama is really scary, really scarce. But right now, I feel like Jalen Milroe is going to be just fine. Defense is going to be just fine. You have Nick Saban as your head coach. You can never really count out Nick Saban. I've learned that in the past. You can never really count out Nick Saban if he's your head coach. So that's my whole take on that. That's why I feel like Alabama is a for real. It pains me to say it because I detest them. So
I honestly don't like Alabama that much. But facts is facts, man. They do got Nick Saban. And I do agree with you on that. I feel like, if you playing under Nick Saban, he can't really steer you wrong. Just do what he asks, man. So, I agree with you on that. I can't lie.
All right, we're going to move this along because it's already been 38 minutes, and this is supposed to be a 15-minute podcast. But,
ain't no way.
Yeah, so we're just going to just give me your current top 10.
My current top 10, right now at number 1, I got Texas, man. Texas, like I said earlier, Quinn Ewers, or however you say his last name, he is like that. I ain't gonna lie. That boy is like that.
Yeah.
And that defense is tough. Their defense is really something else. Like, they kind of made it look a little sus for Alabama. They came out with a win over Alabama and stuff. And yeah, man, I don't know. I just don't see them slowing down unless Quinn get hurt or something. But they just got some injuries going on up front.
Mm-hmm.
At number 2, I got Michigan. Like you said, we dominant, man. We just ain't played nobody. I'm just really scared that, I say that we dominant, and then we come across like a good opponent, and we just get silenced. That's my thing. I just don't want that to happen right now. At number 3, I'm gonna go and put Georgia there. I ain't gonna lie, it's Georgia.
Yeah.
Number 4, I'll put Ohio. I would say Florida State. I don't know. Like, I ain't watched them play for real, but when I have, like, they decent. Like,
I feel the exact same way.
Like, they quarterback for the past 2 years, he's always been like a little sus to me, man. Yeah. Like, I remember when they first put him out there, and like he was decent, but I don't know, like. It's something about, bro.
Going into the season, all I heard was how good Florida State was going to be, and now I'm looking at it and I'm like, that Boston College game, you know.
Yeah, like, it's kind of like,
I don't know, man.
It's kind of mid, bro.
They had another game where it was very close. I'm like, yeah, y'all beat LSU, but everybody else, y'all had months to prepare for LSU. These other teams, I don't know, kind of scary.
Yeah, I ain't going to lie. So number 5, I'm going to put USC. Mm-hmm. Even though they ain't really played nobody. Like, they ain't really played nobody yet. But I do like Caleb Williams. I feel like it ain't nobody in college football that can stop him right now. That man is going crazy. Yeah. And, he better get ready to wait, who got the number 1 pick in the NFL? Right now, I think the Bears.
I don't think it's been decided yet. It probably will be the Bears. They are terrible. They haven't won a game since October of 2022.
I ain't gonna lie. I would have held on to 2023. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not playing for the Bears. Number 6, I got Penn State. 7, Washington. 8, I'll put Florida State. And what I got, 9, 10?
Yeah.
Shoot. I'll put Penn State at 9. I'll put Penn State at 9 because I hope they don't beat us.
Wow.
And Washington at 10. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So my top 10, it goes with Michigan at number 1. Like I said, I feel like they are the best team in the country. I feel like they're going to win the national championship. There's really no more to it. They are the best team in the country in my eyes. Good defensively, good running the ball, good lines on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, good rushing attack, good receivers, good coaching. I just feel like they're really good. The Penn State game is going to be a question mark. That's going to be really fun to watch. I feel like they beat Ohio State again this year. Obvious, but so that's my number 1. Number 2 right now I have Texas. Like you said, Quinn Ewers is a really good guy. I feel like Texas really would have beaten Alabama last year if he had not gotten hurt and if it had not been for Bryce Young having the pocket awareness on 99 overall when that cornerback blitz failed to get him. That would have ended the game, and he converted on 4th down or 3rd down, whatever down it was. So yeah, but like you said, their defense is really, really stout. They have a good rushing attack. Steve has done a really good job coaching them, especially Quinn Ewers. You know, he said he's all business. He cut off his mullet. He said he's not gonna play around with anybody. He's gonna come in and dominate on a week-to-week basis. And beating Alabama at Tuscaloosa is a really hard thing to do, and he did that. Another thing with Texas too is I feel like they are very physical team. I feel like that their special teams comes in clutch at big moments. You look at the Alabama game, they came in clutch. You look at the Wyoming game, they came in clutch. So the special teams has been really special as of late. The defense obviously going to do their job. The offense, same as well. So that's my number 2. Ohio State at number 3, mainly because what they did against Notre Dame. I feel like Notre Dame's a really good team, but Ohio State was able to win, so I have to give them credit where it's due. Like you said, like I said, I still feel like they're a fraud. So later on down the year, we might see, them change, but that's where I have them right now. Number 4, Georgia. So like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I just don't think that they have been the best team in the country. They've been very lackadaisical. The South Carolina game was hard to watch if you were a Georgia fan. The Auburn game was hard to watch if you were a Georgia fan. The other 2 games, you didn't really play anybody, so you can't really say that's their, bread and butter. But like I said, the offense is really predicated on Carson Beck and Brock Bowers, if one of them gets hurt, Lord forbid, knock on wood, or if they just aren't connecting one day, then how good is that defense, that young defense, really going to be in times of need? So that's where I have them at number 4 right now. Number 5, I have Florida State. Like I said, they beat LSU, but if LSU keeps continuing to lose, then how good are we going to really give credit for Florida State for beating them? Like I said, Florida State had months, and that was the first game of the season. They had months and months to prepare for LSU, unlike these other teams like Ole Miss, who had only a week to prepare, and they still were able to beat them. So like I said, it really just depends on how good LSU is. Like I said earlier in the podcast, there have been other games Florida State has been in. The Boston College game, you look at obviously where they were really close to losing had it not been for a few mishaps and questionable play calling towards the end. So that's why I have them at number 5. Number 6, I have Penn State. To be honest, they've looked the second best, or probably the third best, out of all the teams in the top 10 right now. I feel like Penn State is really, really good. The only reason I have them ranked so low is because they haven't really played anybody. Their key win, I forgot who it was. One of their key wins this season was against a Iowa team who they beat 31-0. Iowa's currently ranked right now, but K. McNamara, I don't feel like he's done a really great job of changing that offense. Obviously, we know last year Iowa had a 99 overall defense with a 76 overall offense. So I just feel like K. McNamara hasn't really given them I feel like he hasn't given them many attributes. I feel like he's giving them silver attributes or silver badges, not Hall of Fame, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But like I said, I feel like they're a really great team. I feel like if they've played somebody really good, then they would definitely be higher up in the rankings. Number 7, I have Washington. Like I said, Michael Penix is my Heisman candidate to win this year. He was my Heisman candidate going into it earlier this year before the season even started, while everyone was still talking about Caleb Williams. My whole thing with Caleb Williams winning the Heisman is how often do we see a Heisman winner repeat Heisman championships, repeat the Heisman Trophy multiple times? It's very, very rare. Although he's playing even better than he did last season, but voter fatigue is real and it's a real thing. My only thing with Michael Penix winning the Heisman is I feel like he needs a little bit more publicity. Obviously, you got Caleb Williams, he's already won the Heisman. He paints his fingernails, F the other team or whatever. But Michael Penix, he's not really that, loud-mouthed guy. He doesn't really have the commercials like Caleb Williams does with Dr. Pepper and all that stuff. He's not really that guy that you just see on your TV, but he just knows football. He's going to go out there with his left hand and throw dimes and dots for over 400 yards a game to his really great wide receivers. Also, they've looked really good on defense. They embarrassed Michigan State, and I know Michigan State's kind of in a state where their head coach being fired for, the offseason, all the stuff he's done off the team. So I feel like with Washington, they're going to be really good. Number 8, I have Oregon. They have really good offense. Obviously, Bo Nix is one of the best players in the country. He's one of the most experienced players in the country. Their defense is a lot better than what it was last year. Last year, they were terrible on third down. They were really questionable secondary. So I feel like they've gotten a lot better. Dan Lanning has done a great job. Obviously, the Colorado game, I feel like, in my opinion, and this is just me speaking as an Oregon fan right here, so this is like completely off the record for everything else, but my whole thing with the Dan Lanning and Oregon thing, I feel like Oregon hasn't really played anybody. Like, if I'm being honest, Colorado is not that great of a team. Obviously, they put up 81 on Portland State. The best team they played is Texas Tech, and Texas Tech, they were projected to be really, really good, but they haven't really done too much this season. I just feel like with Oregon, it's going to be kind of a wake-up call when they have to guard when they have to play Michael Penix next weekend, because they both have an off week, a bye week this week. So when those two teams play at 12 o'clock, it's going to be really exciting to see what team has the better defense, because that's what it's going to come down to, is the defense, because both offenses are really, really good. It's going to come down to defensive coaching. Last year, it was probably one of the best games ever. Unfortunately, my team lost, but last year, that was a really great game. Unfortunately, Dan Lanning decided to go for it on his own. I'm not even going to remind myself of that outcome because I was very upset. Um, I have Notre Dame. Um, because they did beat Duke, and I did think that Duke was a really, really good team for how they handled Clemson. But like I said, these teams kind of look months in advance and prepare for these specific teams. And I feel like,
Yeah, yo, I meant to talk to you about that. Like, what's going on with Clemson, dog?
so
Yo,
I'll finish my top 10, then I'll talk about Clemson. But like I said, Notre Dame, they were able to beat Duke. Sam Hartman, he's a dog, man. He's willing to put his body, put his life on the line to win a game, and I really respect that. Marcus Freeman has done a really great job. I honestly thought he was going to be terrible. You know, Brian Kelly leaving for LSU, I honestly thought Marcus Freeman is not going to be good, but he's a lot better than I thought he was going to be, so credit to him. And the Notre Dame defense and offense, Sam Hartman, all those guys. 10, I have USC. They're blowing out teams left and right, but it's nobody's. Like I said, if I don't give credit to Oregon for winning against Colorado, I'm not going to do the same for USC, and USC played even worse against Colorado, so that's why I have them below Oregon. So that's my top 10. But with Clemson, here's my thing with Clemson. So Dabo Swinney, you know, he's a traditional guy, and his whole thing is we're not going to do the transfer portal because that's not how college football has been done in the past. Yeah, it's not how it's been done in the past, but we're living in the present, buddy. Like the transfer portal has been really good for, you know, players. I feel like he still has a very old style of play calling. And another thing too, I want to say is DJ Uiagalelei. I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but you know, he played for Clemson before he went to Oregon State, right?
yeah.
And everyone was saying that, oh, DJ's not good. He's not a 5-star, this, that, and the other. And then when Cade Klubnik came in, people were saying, oh, he's better than DJ. He needs to start this, that, and the other. Well, Cade Klubnik isn't really doing that great this season as well, him being the permanent starter. And my whole thing with that is, if it's not the former 5-star DJ, if it's not Cade Klubnik, who was a Heisman hopeful going into the season, obviously it has to be the coaching and the play calling. And I feel like Clemson, though, we see them like, you know, Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, one of them, Etienne, you know, all those guys who were competing in the college football playoff. You know, we remember those guys. We're like, dang, Clemson's really good. Well, they also had Brent Venables on defense, who was really, really good. They had some of the best college players of all time on their offense. So, you know, it's really hard to look at their downfall, but I honestly do think Clemson is on a downfall. That Florida State game really showed me a lot that I needed to know about how good Clemson really is.
They got exposed at Florida State game.
Yeah, so I just feel like Dabo really needs to change his methods of, one, offensive play calling, and his ideology on not using transfer portals and all of that. I feel like the transfer portal is good in a way, kind of. I don't like how frequently and relied upon it is. I feel like it's kind of like the free agency of college football. Because, you know, like NFL, NBA, you have free agency. I feel like it's kind of like that. But it also really good to, like, you know, get guys that you really need to fill in positions who you don't want to wait to recruit, you know. I feel like and you've already seen what they can do. I feel like it's cool. But I don't think it should be relied heavily upon to build a new team like Colorado. Like, I don't think that Colorado, what they're doing is necessarily fair, because the only thing you're doing is just pulling players from other teams. Like, you're not really recruiting. And I guess that's kind of the same way Dabo Swinney's thinking. But if you look at how Colorado's doing versus how Clemson's doing, Colorado kind of has that leverage over them right now. We're like, well, transfer portal does get you victories versus traditional recruiting and stuff. So that's my whole take on that.
They definitely do got like everybody's eyes on their team right now. So
yeah,
honestly, I do agree with you with the like the transfer portal and everything, but I do feel like it is honestly like a blessing for a lot of players, because, you know, a lot of players, like, it's a lot of players that sit in the transfer portal and just never get picked up, you know, so it is a risk. You know, like, it's not like guaranteed that they'll, like, you know, get to a team or anything. Like, they can just sit in their transfer portal and just be stuck there and just not have, like, no team to go back to. So I feel like it is a risk. And I feel like Dabo, he definitely do need to like change around like that old school. Like I don't think that's just gonna work anymore. Like just based off of like what Deion has done and like how he's represented his team and what he's bringing to the table. I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of other schools that look at what Deion has done for the Colorado program and just want that, like want how he's getting all the celebs and stuff to come to the games and stuff and talk to kids and just everybody's looking at Colorado, bro. Like everybody.
Yeah.
So I just feel like other schools are gonna like try to mimic that or try to see what they can do to get at least neck and neck with like what Colorado got going on right now. Honestly.
Yeah. So, but thank you everyone for those who listen live and those who are tuning in later on. Thank you all for listening. Thank you once again, Eli, for giving your output and your input on just the different various questions I asked you.
No problem.
Thank you for your time. This has been the Talk Less, Listen More podcast, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
All right. We